Hello? Are we live? I hope so, because I'm starting. Hello, everyone. My name is Trups LP, and welcome to another episode of our political recap. Joining me, as always, is the moist Cthulhukin himself, Omegon. Please say hello, Omegon.
Insert cork noise here. Hello, Omega.
Yes. I think after last week we're good on the drinking.
Don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't the one sat in a Discord VC trying to play a video game and fundamentally failing.
Hey,
They told
I was
me.
gonna fundamentally fail if I was in the VC or not.
Yeah, I was so glad that there were witnesses. They told me everything. It was amazing.
Yeah,
The funny thing is,
I was having a great time.
I went to bed and next morning I went to go to work. My sister, I said, did I get up during the night? Because the dining room light was on and two squid plushes were on the dining room table. I was like, no. I started walking to work and I realised, hang on, were they blue by chance? So we spoke later and confirmed they were blue. I had, in fact, woken up halfway during the night to go downstairs and put them on the table because I had an email alert telling me that we had a sale and, well, they weren't even the right ones. It was for bats. I don't know what happened. I woke up and just
I'm amazed that in your sleep you were like, still have to do my job. Hang on. The people need me.
Yeah, it was more of a sleepwalk than anything, but it was amusing.
I do that too.
Yeah, I don't do it very often, so I'm just glad I didn't do anything stupid. More stupid than that.
More than usual, right?
Yeah. How are you anyway?
You know, I'm doing pretty well. I am preparing for Tuesday and the shit show that will ensue.
Oh, Tuesday's gonna be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
If he wins, the salt will sustain us until to be honest, if he wins, he will officially have proven his point.
Mm-hmm.
He will do it. If he does that, he's made his point, and he can just walk away with his head held high with people insulting him, and he can just say 2 terms. The fuck you got?
Yeah, for real. Especially after a brutal media campaign. I mean, he has not gotten a fucking break.
It's incredible.
Before the show, Omegon was saying that that Anderson Cooper was bitching because he said Kamala instead of Kamala.
Oh, more than that, they had a guest on, and the guest being black as well indicated that Trump is a racist because of this, and then also indicated that Kamala Harris, Mrs. Harris,
Senator Harris, yeah,
yes, that she has a African heritage, but she doesn't. She has Indian heritage only.
Oh yeah, wasn't that like a whole big thing that she was like one of the first like Indian Americans to be
Yeah, but then they're harping on about her ethnicity being something else. Like, okay, well, it's not Elizabeth Warren here. Although it's equally contestable.
Funny? I was having this discussion actually with my fiance yesterday, and the discussion was, you know, the media likes to say black and brown people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brown people is the largest like demographic you could possibly imagine, because it counts for anybody in South America who isn't black or white. It counts for the entirety of the Middle East, India, Sri Lanka, some of the Philippines and those associated Pacific islands. Like, brown people is actually, I think, the most racist way you could refer to a person.
I thought colored person was.
Well, colored person is at least you're not trying to lump me in with other people. It was just like, okay, I'm just not white, right? But like brown people, as if like black and brown people, almost like brown people themselves are a monolith. I think that's horribly racist. Especially because, I mean, I get it. The joke from Gabriel Iglesias about Indians being very similar to Mexicans but they're not also at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
point is that they're far too different to be referred to as just this monolith brown people. Like brown people, they're very different. But Joe Biden was the one who said, unlike black people, Latino people have a wealth of diversity in their culture.
But didn't he also? This is a contested point because I'm not entirely sure what other George he could have been referring to. Forget he was running against Trump until his wife pointed it out.
He did.
I don't know what George he was referring to when he said that. I mean, it could have meant Bush.
Likely Bush. Likely Bush.
But there was some other saying he meant George of this country, and I don't know what you're talking about.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, what relevance is that to America, man? It means Jack. Come on.
Yeah, honestly, it's just more fucking BS trying to defend him. And I still feel bad for him. I still feel bad for him.
I do too. If Biden wins, though, oh jeez,
he won't be allowed to maintain any kind of power. It'll be immediately usurped by whoever Secretary of State is and whoever and Kamala Harris.
So there is that. Someone did point out to me when I was streaming on Twitch earlier that he did pass a dementia test, unlike Trump, who didn't answer 3 of the questions. Is that true?
I don't know, but that sounds like something that was drummed up simply to discredit the concern that the man has dementia. Like it sounds almost just like, hi, we took this just to say that you guys are wrong, and okay, great. Mm-hmm. He doesn't appear like he's doing that great. Regardless of dementia or not, he doesn't look great.
No, he doesn't look that good.
So, those are just my thoughts.
I would say, so when it comes to electing a politician, and I feel bad for Biden to an extent because he's not really had as far as career goes for himself, it's not really a bad career, is it? He hasn't really done anything that's truly awful, right?
I mean, real talk, the guy's been in it for 47 years. So, I mean,
mm-hmm.
He's at least consistent.
Right. But then I look at his running, and I don't. It's not because she's a woman. I promise this. Her record is bad. And by the way, I know others would now. Some have undoubtedly would say as a counter about the new Supreme Court, Amy Barron.
Amy Coney Barrett.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. She didn't. Her experience is also quite limited. But I'm looking at but not talking about her. I'm talking about the vice president candidate here, and her record for help protecting people as Attorney General in California is horrific. She's horrific. She lost the first run.
Actually awful.
And she actually is. And if people vote for that, you're voting for somebody who will lie to you. She's lying anyway because she shot down Biden in the original debates, and now she's willing to work with him after she was horrible towards him, actually.
Oh, I mean, don't you remember? Believe all women except, Tara Reid, because,
believe anyone unless they give you don't believe anyone unless they give you a leg up, in which case believe everything because, swag power.
Because that was essentially what ended up happening, because Kamala really didn't have a whole lot of prominence in the mainstream until her brutal condemnations of Brett Kavanaugh during that confirmation hearing, and afterwards, I mean, everyone knew because she had some woke hot takes that were really, really bad.
I'll be honest, I only knew of her more recently. The reason I paid attention was because Tulsi Gabbard annihilated her. Just destroyed her, and it was rightly done. She tried to fob it off as well in that. I remember she was trying to do the Biden thing of look down and smile dryly or wryly or whatever.
Oh yes, she did. Yes, she did. I remember that now.
You know you got ruined. You know you did. And she had to her campaign was over. She's only been reinvigorated because race and gender. That's the only reason. It can't be. It's not. And that sounds really bad. But that's exactly why she was chosen.
Oh, because she's a token?
There's a term for it. What is it when you give someone a job?
Tokenizing.
No. You give someone affirmative action. You're an affirmative
Oh,
action hire,
yeah.
and that sounds really horrible because she could be someone down the line in the future. Give her a few more terms or something. Sure, when a bit more of that toxicity is out of her head. But I'll be honest, her past is now. It's there. I mean, Biden's getting hammered too now because of his son, which is hilarious. But
Rightly so, though.
yeah,
Because, I mean, the Democratic Party spends the last 40 years complaining that the Republican candidate, President Donald Trump, is a corrupt politician.
he's not a politician.
Meanwhile, he's a corrupt politician.
Yeah, I've never really considered Trump a politician, even though he's a president. He's not really a politician, though.
That too, right?
He's not. He doesn't act like one. He doesn't behave like a politician at all. He behaves like a businessman who just doesn't give a shit. He wants to win.
Right, exactly. He's treating the presidency kind of like more a business deal, honestly.
One where he loses money.
Well, I think at the start he thought of it more as a business deal. Now I think he's doing it to spite everybody.
If he gets that second term, the one thing I'd like to see obviously your economy get back on track because things were improving. I know many would say otherwise, but it was doing all right until coronavirus hit. Unemployment was down as far as I remember. I'd also like to see those international relations he was working on in the Middle East come to a very peaceful head.
A lot of them have actually. I think it was we've had the UAE and
Dubai.
Bahrain, and Dubai just went over, and I think somebody else.
I don't know who, but if more progress can be made, I'm all for that. But I'd obviously like to see more domestic success. That'd be good. Because I also,
honestly,
do you remember that first State of the Union we did a stream on?
yeah.
That was so fucking funny.
Oh, Sudan, that too.
I remember. Okay, so this is maybe a little reminiscing. We streamed that State of the Union where we talked about it, and we talked about the Stone Cold entrance because you did a thing on it.
That was fun.
Yeah, and there was it showed at that moment how utterly pathetic the then Democratic Party were, when even when there were things that they supported going well because it was Trump that announced it, they refused to engage or applaud it, and only a few did.
Right.
I was like, this is petulant behaviour, and we this is why we said he did good in that State of the Union. In fact, I think he's done all right in all of them so far.
I think so. I would say that he's done pretty damn well. Because honestly, I mean, as far as anybody, I understand there are people who don't like his attitude. They don't like how he talks. I understand all that. But when you get down to actual brass tacks, to the things he's actually done policy-wise, there's not much to complain about. And I know that people will say things like, "Oh, the Muslim ban was wrong."
Trans military thing as well.
Yeah.
The Muslim ban thing isn't as bad. Everyone thinks that's him. That was Obama.
Well, it was both actually.
Yeah.
But the thing is, a lot of policy-wise, there's not a whole lot to complain about. A lot of it was pretty good. And I like the idea of, like, we're taking our troops out of Afghanistan. I'm pretty down with that.
Yeah, I would be
I
too.
think, to quote him from one of his rallies, 19 years is enough, right?
Someone in my stream chat did say if Trump was re-elected, this was on Twitch earlier, that if Trump was re-elected, that their spouse would remain deployed for a bit longer. Which confuses me. Did they mean Biden?
I don't know.
Because I don't know what his...
I'm not quite sure what they're talking about, to be
Yeah,
honest
nor
with
was
you.
I. This is why I have to ask you, because I'm not entirely sure either. Discourse mentions Trump has delivered on a lot of his promises. That's
Yes.
because he's not a politician. He's a businessman, and he has to be a man of his word for good business.
Yeah, otherwise you don't get that repeat business. People
By the way,
won't
I'm
come
not
to
sucking
you.
Trump's dick. I'm English. I'm looking at this. He said he'd do things, and he's done them. don't see that happen much with politicians, to be honest. Although I
No,
will
and
say, but Obama kept his word. He did introduce Medicaid. It's a debatable hot
it was a
subject.
bit more complicated than that, though. He rammed it through at the last minute.
Yes, but he did do it, which is at
Yes,
least he
true.
kept his word. I mean, it's not. It's a debated thing whether it's any good or not.
Yeah,
That's
I guess that's more debate worthy, I guess.
Yeah, it's a contested one, but one of the few things I've ever seen someone keep their word on, and he did do it. I mean, he had to obviously use it to force it through. Has Trump had to force anything through?
Well, I guess that really depends on your perspective on the Amy Coney Barrett thing. The statements regarding Amy Coney Barrett, a lot of people are saying that he rammed that through at the last minute. I have to disagree, just because the vacancy occurred and they had enough time to do it.
So my view when I heard about that was, you could wait, but he's in power. He can do what he wants. If he has the time to do it, then do it. Doesn't distract from the election, because your election's fucking dead anyway. Without short of if you ignore the media just constantly shitting on Trump, and now, I mean, the British media, they are pretty much like, they're kind of shitting on Biden a bit because of the Hunter stuff, but he is well within his right to put that through because he's the president. It's not a case of him doing it like forcing it. It's, there is time. Cool. There's a space. Oh, you want more time because Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I get the respectful part, but I'll be honest. Mourning the loss of a person, there is a slot on the Supreme Court. I also don't like.
And you have an election that is already going to be contested.
Yes. I also don't like this idea of expanding the Supreme Court. I keep hearing people wanting to talk about that. I think that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
It's literally going to, as a lot of people have said, it's going to end up as a tit for tat for the rest of the foreseeable future.
It's not a good idea. No one should.
No, it's not.
I think
it's only going to cause issues.
Is Trump trying to do it?
No.
Then
Trump is railing against it.
Then he should stay on that, stay the path on that, because at least then he can say he never sought to try and outweigh something but political representation, so he can continue party line politics even in the Supreme Court. Which is what it sounds like.
Right now, the Democrats are trying to basically push the idea that him ramming through Amy Coney Barrett is quote unquote packing the courts. Now what they've done here is they've essentially muddied the waters of what that actually, like, the words mean, because what it means to pack the court does not mean to slant the court or to otherwise put up people who will agree with your position, whether or not you actually believe that Amy Coney Barrett is a partisan. The point is that you have basically people who are trying to lie outright, saying that, he's trying to pack the court by pushing through this nominee, whereas they are actually talking about packing the court, but they've renamed it. It's now called expanding the court, because packing the court, well, that sounds bad.
Expanding the court's a bad idea. Simple as that, really.
Yeah.
I know the argument is, but there are more Republican Supreme Court justices or something, forgetting here that some of them have voted against Trump. They're clearly not following. Yeah, exactly. They're not following party politics. They are nominees from the Republicans, but clearly they have learnt to remain, I'd say, not unbiased, but to retain a certain level of neutrality when it comes to whatever wing of justice, in the sense of that, I guess.
At least at the best they can. I mean, the thing is, when you put on people who have, like, for example, originalist views of the Constitution,
like Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah, you're going to find that a majority of originalists are conservatives, because those two words kind of fit with one another. It's the original, right? It's the original interpretation of the Constitution, a conservative approach, if you will.
Yeah, no, I get you. I think when it comes down to, like, interpreting the Constitution, the idea of it being well, okay, so there's this, isn't it the argument if you're more conservative you're considered regressive or something because you're staying in with the
Some
and
some say
so
that.
let's indulge that aspect for a second. It's regressive to use the Constitution and not think of a more progressive way forward, but to do that would mean to change the Constitution, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
That might be a dangerous thing to do.
I agree. Unfortunately, a lot of people have kind of just ignored that part.
I did have a bigger point, but I forgot about it. I do apologize.
No. It's more along the lines of if you have an originalist view, it basically means that you try to interpret the things based on what the framers of the Constitution had intended, without trying to basically assert that, well, you know that the words may say this, which means I can interpret those words and then I can use them to fit my narrative.
Yes.
So it's the difference between essentially an originalist in the spirit of it and a literalist. Those two are two different things, and they can honestly be on either side, because there are some liberal policies that are, well, okay, liberal policies, meaning
before you
free
continue,
policies.
I want to ask the chat a question. Press 1 if you think the Supreme Court should be expanded, and 2 if you think it should not be expanded. Carry on. They'll catch up soon, won't they?
Yeah.
Liberal policy.
The liberal policy, like, for example, a free policy, a unobstructed policy, is like the Second Amendment, or the First Amendment for that matter. Congress shall make no law infringing the rights of speech, etc. Or the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Look at the chat.
It's a lot of twos.
I think
What
the
was
twos.
two?
The two is not to expand the Supreme Court.
Well, thank you. 1.5. Okay, Spider, I want to hear your argument.
Time out. Time out. That's hate speech. Okay.
No, I actually do. I do want to know, because I don't really know what a,
Well,
a good
1.5 sounds
excuse
like
for
a
it is.
middle thing of I'm not entirely sure.
Well, that's why I want to hear what he has to say, because honestly, I don't really hear too many good arguments for it. It sounds a lot of just tit for tat,
Yeah,
and
so
that's why I'm
another reason. I want to say another reason I am against the idea of expanding it is I'd hate for it to become a senator, another senator-related aspect of you have a certain number of Supreme Court justices from each state.
Oh, like another legislative body.
Exactly, and that's what it looks like when someone says they want to expand it, because you want to try and control it, and that's bad. That there's no version of it where but they're Republican nominees. They voted against him, you pricks. They're clearly not in his pocket, and I doubt he'd give them money anyway, because he's busy putting it in his pocket and giving it in wads to his church. It's just. It's a terrible idea. It'd be a terrible idea, and that's the first thing I thought when I heard that people were thinking about trying to expand it. I don't want it to become like Congress or the Senate. If it became like that, you'd have a third branch of whatever those two are. Legislative, is that it?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea for the way your political system, air quotes, works, end air quotes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and basically I just think that trying to pack the courts in any way is actually how what was it? El De Gusto said in chat, it's bloat and power creep.
It'd be a way of trying to water down the votes of other Supreme Court justices by having enough of them. Having more votes diminishes the vote of that one justice. And I think you have 8, don't you?
We have 9.
You have 9. 9's fine, because then you will always have someone that wins.
Right.
And that, to me,
we didn't always have 9.
Yeah, I know.
They expanded it to 9 when we had increased the amount of district courts. So, like, you ever hear like the Ninth Circuit Court?
Yes,
right?
I've heard of that.
You hear these words, right? So we have technically we have 13 now.
Are people trying to argue you need 13 then?
Yes. and that is what a lot of Democrats have been trying to push for or use as their basis. I'm not a fan of that idea. I think that it's a cheeky way to get around the idea. 9, which matches the number of circuits. It used to. We have 13 now.
Do you think they'll expand the number of circuits?
Probably. But the problem is that I think that the way that we exist in our country at the moment, we need to have a basically a smaller body for essentially the highest appellate court, because that's really what the Supreme Court is.
I think it should stay as low as possible then. If 9...
Right. I would rather them cut people than add people, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. You shouldn't have any negatives, in
Well,
fact.
Well, I mean, 5 was, I think, how we started.
Okay.
So, I mean, and then you want to keep the odd vote so that you can have the tiebreaker.
Okay. That's actually not as bad as I thought it would be, to be fair.
Yeah. But again, the judicial system is ideally is the least political. You don't want the judicial system to be political, because take Kamala Harris in her attorney general position in California. She essentially was the top cop in California. It was political. And you know what ended up happening? So many people had gotten arrested for crimes that she personally admits to doing herself, meaning marijuana. There were so many petty drug crimes, and then they abused the people in the prison system as basically cheap labor. So please, you don't want the federal Supreme Court to be political. It's going to go bad for everyone involved. No one wins.
It is, especially because it then looks like a seizing of power from a branch they shouldn't be touching.
Yes.
And any person that controls that, yeah, no, they're not a president. They're a dictator.
Right.
I could be wrong, though.
No, I mean that's a lot of the feelings regarding it, and I think that that's where we're at right now.
How is the election going so far, though, this week?
I mean, the election is kind of weird. So information came out today that Miami-Dade County, so Miami, is swinging red. Miami is hard blue. I mean, it's been really, really blue, right? But early voting today came out, and people were surprised to find out that it was going red. Now, there's a couple reasons for that, and it kind of falls into the Latino vote. So right now you have a system of government, a party that has basically told Latinos that the most important reason why they should vote for Joe Biden is immigration and the situation at the border, which is essentially immigration part 2. That's that's the one policy that everyone looks to. I'm sorry, I was reading the chat. Brandon Brown, mark my words, the moment Dem majority across the board happens, that will happen. Yeah, probably. We're gonna hope that doesn't happen, though. The single issue vote, apparently, for Latinos is immigration. That is part of it. I mean, we do care about that. But you'd be surprised that many who vote don't necessarily like to find out that a party is propping up people who illegally come into their country, where the people who came here legally are sitting there and go, "Who the fuck do you think you are? I had to work my ass off for this, and you get in for free? This is horse shit." And yeah, as Mike Smith says, Cubans, hi, don't like anything closely related to communism. No, and they will fight to keep it from that, because they've seen what happens when they fight for it, and they were like, "This was a bad idea."
Yeah, not a good idea.
No. So right now, it's kind of interesting because Latinos and blacks are actually moving more towards voting for Trump. Just today, I think it was Lil Jon, another rapper. So 50 Cent had come out and endorsed Trump and then got a lot of backlash and then retracted because, bad PR. And then Lil Jon came out with and posted in support of him, and with a picture of him with the president. And 50 Cent was like, "Oh no, you shouldn't have done that." But yeah, young black men are resonating with Trump because Trump's like, "We're gonna get you, the job opportunities that you need."
Those job opportunities were, if you remember the State of the Unions, black unemployment was down.
So the lowest it's ever been, recorded at least.
I know people then said, "That's not your thing, that was Obama's thing." Possibly, but it happened in his term.
Yeah, there's a lot of argument that comes. Was it Lil Wayne? I thought it was Lil Jon.
I don't know any of the rappers' names, so I it could have been.
I thought it was Lil Jon.
I'm sorry, I thought it was Nickelback.
Because I thought the tweet said John. I wouldn't have posted that.
Oof.
I had heard it on the radio, so I didn't actually read it. So I may be wrong.
Oops.
Oh well. Yeah. Anyway, but it's interesting to find out that all these minorities are going after the Republican Party, considering that minorities have overwhelmingly usually voted for Democrats. Isn't that the same for you and your Labor Party though?
Yeah, but at the moment, coronavirus is guaranteed that at least for the next few years, we have 5-year terms, so it's not a huge deal right now for Boris. But once this is over, he's going to have to work double time to get the economy growing again because so many people have lost jobs. Yeah, it's not good. But it's a different time for us. We're not in an election cycle. We haven't got it till 2024.
Well, you already had your election cycle, and a lot of people are looking at the election cycle that you guys had and are comparing it to what could happen in the United States, saying that, okay, well, they had districts that hadn't voted for conservatives in over 100 years.
Yeah, okay, so this came down to the northern, a lot of the northern Labour strongholds, because their position on Brexit was all over the fucking place. Remember that? Oh, well, we'll renegotiate it, then put it to people and campaign against it. Okay. And also the fact that the anti-Semitism issue was a big problem, which we'll get to soon, I promise. It's fucking hilarious. And it was a mess. But many of the a lot of Northerners voted to leave. And the Labour Party were going to go against that. And it's like,
wasn't this
people
all tied with Brexit?
Yeah, it was. But also, a lot of the young people would say in this country that they aren't being represented because the old people are outvoting them. Okay, well, your parents voted for Conservatives as well because they're so fucking sick of your shit. It's why the UK government is so fundamentally against things like critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
And to make sure that the point was very clear, they got a black woman to say it. Which was amazing. Because the Labour...
What was that?
Oh, God, what was her name? I actually put it in. I did a video on it, actually, on this channel. What is her name? I don't know how to pronounce her name. Let me go and get it. White privilege is illegal. That's the video. What is her name? I'll get the article up. Give me a sec. But she's a minister in the cabinet anyway. Kemi Badenoch. She is a minister of some kind. She's a women and equalities minister. And she said she's not, teaching children that white privilege is a fact is illegal because it's based on critical race theory. Therefore, it is not fact. And the government doesn't support critical race theory anyway because, because it teaches children to feel guilty for the skin colour. Which was hilarious because then you have people opposite on the Labour benches that are themselves black and minority ethnic and not very happy about this at all. And then you had all the spurgs on Twitter who are ardent Labour supporters, progressive as fuck, saying, token black chick, or the Uncle Tom, or the one with the dreads married to the white man. Yeah, she's a race traitor.
Isn't it always hilarious, and by hilarious I mean terribly, terribly sad, that people who are against, I guess, the norm are race traitors and then called some of the worst names.
Yeah.
And ironically, it's usually by people in the party that claim to be,
well, it's
claim to be for them.
It's interesting because the same Sajid Javid, when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer, we had a little laugh at the fact that people were calling him a coconut. Now, he saw it as a racial attack, but the thing is, his head is incredibly round, like a coconut. But then, obviously, his skin colour being brown, I got that it was a bit, too close to home. You've got Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and, I'm waiting for more insults on that. You've got Priti Patel, who's been called a Paki on numerous occasions, which is considered a racial slur in the UK.
Yeah, wait, I was like, wait a second.
I cast you away with my big
Joseph Kerwin, will Corbyn's removal be a boon for Labour? Surely issues surrounding him. Yes, I'll get to it soon, I promise. And thank you for the generous donation. That's very kind of you. We'll get to it soon, I promise. But yeah, there are slurs that are used against people just because you disagree with them politically. And it's like, and then Labour still harp on about critical race theory in the sense of the oppression Olympics. Black means you're the most oppressed. And so when someone like Priti Patel says, no, you fucking ain't, mate, and we ain't doing this shitty contest, piss off, in a more eloquent manner, people get triggered to shit. And I think actually it does really well because it shows just how delicate you are when you can't think of the bigger picture and your emotions mean more to you. What does that say?
Well, the thing is that pisses me off is that I loathe the day where Republicans would do some of the things that Democrats do, where if let's just say that you had black Trump supporters flipping to Biden, and right-wingers came out and called them Uncle Toms and coons and all this, and I would be appalled because that's not what we're here to do. We are not trying to hold people down and make them feel bad for choosing something else. We sit there, we try and convince them, we try and tell them, this is the way that we are trying to help you, and this is why we're doing this. You sit and you explain it. If you go down the path of saying, I want to help you unless you don't want my help, and then if you don't, I'm going to just start throwing racial epithets, then you weren't really trying to help them if you think this poorly of them.
Okie Native, thank you for the $5 donation. Most of my British friends who use the term Paki are Punjabi. Is that common? Yes, because I believe Punjabi, isn't that Indian and not Pakistani?
I think so.
So,
what's interesting,
if it is the case, that would explain a lot, because India and Pakistan are not particularly close.
Right-winger does not equal Republicans, though. True.
Very true.
I'm not a Republican. I am a conservative.
And I'm just me. I'm not.
What's kind of interesting about that Oki, what Oki said was a similar thing actually happens with Hispanic communities. For example, I think we've talked about it before, but Haitians and Dominicans, not fans of each other. Dominicans don't like Haitians, and a lot of it actually boils down to race.
Mm-hmm.
Haitians are typically much darker than Dominicans, but some Dominicans are darker because the islands is hard to kind of guess race there. After a certain point, you're just kind of like, "What are you?" "I'm Dominican." "Okay." But Haitians, by and large, are much darker,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some racist fucking Dominicans that I have met in my life because I've been to the Dominican Republic many times, and wow, dude, I've heard some old ass fucking Dominicans say some horrible things.
Russell Burnham, Megon is the leader of the Misanthrope Party. Incorrect. I am the leader of the non-binary party. My pronouns are swish and swoop. Respect them.
I don't understand.
Nor do I.
Okay.
Shall we move on to something else?
Yeah.
Earlier this week, the Equality Human Rights Commission, after 18 months, maybe longer, finally published its report into anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. This was a great moment, Trups. Do you know why? Are you there, Trups? Hello? Hello? I can't hear him.
Oh, hello. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I asked if you knew why the report was such a good deal and big deal in this country.
I don't, but I hope you tell.
So it discovered that the Labour Party broke... they breached the Equalities Act 3 times for relating to political interference in anti-Semitism complaints, a failure to provide adequate training for those handling anti-Semitism complaints, and harassment. The failures relating to political interference came from the opposition's office, and the Equality Human Rights Commission found that it was not a legitimate approach. And this applied to a third of 70 cases that were being reviewed. So,
well then,
this means the Labour Party has been served with an unlawful act notice. It has until the 10th of December to draft an action plan to implement the recommendations, which is legally enforceable by a court if not fulfilled. Punjabi food's fantastic.
So what do they have? What do they have to do?
I actually don't know. I assume they have to do what Keir Starmer had already said they were going to do. Introduce new systems. Actually root out the anti-Semitism. The problem with that is, half the party support the measures already in place. The ones that kind of, treated Jewish people like shit. And so what happened was, 2 hours after this was announced, well, not even that. I put the video in our my tab on the Moisky server we use. There was a video of Keir Starmer. He gave an interview. He went through the recommendations actually, and in that video he explains what the party was going to do because of what he was already doing. But 2 hours later, Corbyn was interviewed, and Jeremy Corbyn hadn't had time to properly digest it. He'd heard the news that the party had broken rules, and under his watch they had done that. He was adamant that systems he had put in place and what he was doing was getting the job done, just not as quick as he would have hoped. But he also admitted also he hadn't had enough time to go through it all. But he was adamant that he was doing everything right, and therefore the report was wrong. So Keir Starmer suspended Jeremy Corbyn from the Labour Party. I never thought he would have the balls to do that.
That's literally like trying to lie to your mom, who's looking at the broken vase.
Yeah, it is.
And it's like, I didn't do it. It was my brother. Your brother has been at practice all afternoon.
Yeah, it's up there with my niece who chewed on her bed, which is a Wendy House bed frame. She chewed on it, and when we pointed and said, "Why'd you do it?" she said, "It wasn't me. It was my teeth."
That's even better.
I couldn't believe she said that. I actually had to clap. I was like, I'm loving that. That's brilliant. You fucking idiot.
I'm sure your sister was thrilled that you were encouraging it.
Oh, no. I told her off afterwards. So,
Okay.
the thing is with this, Keir Starmer could very well expel Jeremy Corbyn from the Labour Party because of this. And the problem with this is, so in the chat earlier mentioned, might have been Russell, but no, it was Furry Kitten, Momentum. Momentum are one of those little groups that like Corbyn, but now you've reminded me of Unite, which I believe is the... Labour Party is propped up by trade unions, because they're meant to represent the workers, aren't they? And Unite are one of the biggest and the most progressive. Len McCluskey heads that. Now, I've mocked him on a regular basis because he's a div. Simple as that. He's a fucking div. At first, he was adamantly in support of Jeremy Corbyn because, man, we can't be taking shots at my friend Jezza here. He's a progressive, yo. But also because he believes that if Starmer pushes ahead with the recommendations, it could well cause a split in the party and guarantee they don't win the next election. And he believes that at the same time there is a chance of a civil war, something which Keir Starmer, believes that you can work around. Yeah, He also believes what's a div? A div is a dickhead, dipshit, moron, plonker, tosser. Div. Simple as that, really, Patriarch of the Sith. Just another pejorative to call someone a moron. Keir Starmer believes that, go on.
I said, but British.
Yes.
I want to make fun of somebody in British.
Allies of Jeremy Corbyn have warned that, have warned Sir Keir Starmer that Jeremy has an army behind him and lots of legal funding, which is true. Because a GoFundMe was started to raise legal funds for Jeremy Corbyn because of the Equalities and Human Rights Commission report. They managed to raise over £300,000 in less than a day just to help old Jezza, even though, no offence to Jeremy here, he's a wealthy... he's not exactly... No, he's a career politician. He's got money. Okay? He could afford the legal expense. I promise you this. Unless his ex-wives, two of them, I think three, I don't know, he's been married a few times. Unless they all took his money from him, he's good. He's got a house that's worth $1 million. If he needs to, he could just mortgage it, okay? So...
I'm going to say something kind of bad, but it's all in good fun.
Right. I now want to... I do actually... go on, say it, go on.
Yeah. Jeremy Corbyn may have an army of legal teams, but I bet you Keir Starmer, after having done that, probably has a good team of Jewish lawyers on his side.
Well, the funny thing is, he doesn't need them. Because he is one. He was one for years. For decades. But yes, he does actually, to be fair, Starmer does have the support of a lot of Jewish groups in the UK anyway. But I actually have the recommendations. I found them. So, the Watchdog Commission has said they need to commission an independent process to handle anti-Semitism complaints and acknowledge the effect political interference has had and implement clear rules to stop it happening again. Which is really difficult. An independent commission, I'll be honest, that could exist for all parties. The government could sort that out and have it so it's like a separate entity.
Okay, yeah, yes.
Corbyn, by the way, I actually got one of his quotes when the report this is a disastrous miscalculation. It could now escalate. Cool.
It can now.
Oh, Boris isn't worth.
It's funny that he said "can" now, if he was waiting for it to happen.
It's a strange one. Boris is worth less because his ex-wife is fleecing him for everything he's got. It's hilarious.
Hey, but guess what? The ex-wife isn't the first lady.
Yes, but the ex-wife. To be fair, the ex-wife now deserves it because Boris did he did cheat. Come on. He walked away from the family. He walked away from them and cheated on his wife. He can lose a few bits this time. He shouldn't lose everything, of course.
I was gonna say, but you shouldn't kill a man because of it.
No, I agree, but it's a consequence. I don't obviously agree with the I don't agree with the more
You
severe
shouldn't
aspect.
raise an entire man's
No, I agree.
lifestyle
But he's
and
got 4
welfare.
years in Downing Street before he's on the street or living at his dad's. I'm kidding. I obviously wouldn't want that to happen. It won't anyway, because Boris, seriously, he was an editor for a fucking newspaper. If he wants to, he can just go back and do that and make several $100,000 a year doing it. Or do speeches, because everyone wants to hear him talk. It's fucking hilarious.
True.
So Boris has been, Jeremy's been suspended from the Labour Party because seriously, that was a cock up on TV, and he doesn't agree with the outcome. And it's quite. I mean, the report was damning. I was going to do a video going through it, but I didn't have time this week because main channel. But it is interesting to read. I will go and quickly get it for you because I think it's only right you will have a chance to, if you want to read it, to have a look at it, because it is fascinating. I'll put it in the chat now. Report. Do consider reading it. It is good. It is very interesting to see how they got this. Problem is, many have now used this as an opportunity to attack the Equality and Human Rights Commission, saying, but what, you're funded by the Tories and you haven't got any real power. Forgetting here, Cameron had to slash their budget from 60 million down to 17.5 million a year. He had no choice. Austerity, yo. And yes, there are contradictions because people are now saying, but you've done this to Labour, but the Conservatives and that Islamophobia, you need to do that as well. There are nowhere near as many complaints against the Conservative Party about Islamophobia. In fact, there are so many fewer. You're just making a mountain out of a molehill on a very small number of cases. And I'm not saying it isn't happening. I'm saying you're now trying to compare, so I'm going to compare for you and tell you there are nowhere near as many cases as you claim there are, because you're taking one case and spinning one word from each case to make it look a little different.
And also, what about ism?
It is that, and it's not relevant. It's not the point. Okay, if there are enough reports made and complaints, yes, do the report. Of course, do the report. But good luck with it.
Yeah, that would be my thing. It would be, okay, if there are that many, I wait for the report, and I will attack this with the same ferocity that I'm doing this. But that's not about now. This is about now. I would like to continue talking about what's actually happening instead of hypotheticals.
Cough, cough, France, cough, cough, huh?
Well,
I ain't touching up with a fucking barge pole.
It's not. I don't even know where to start with France, because I honestly haven't been paying attention. All I know is that shit's on fire.
Okay, teacher was beheaded for showing a picture of Muhammad from the Charlie Hebdo magazine,
one.
right?
I thought we were talking about the other one.
It's escalated. That's the thing. It's escalated because the president supports Macron's on the side of free expression, and even the Malaysian prime minister has said those Muslims now
fuck the Malaysian prime. Okay, I did see this.
And he said they're well within the right to kill millions of French people because of Mohammed, yo. Or was it ex-Malaysian Prime Minister? It doesn't matter. Formerly or current high-ranking minister in another country, it's predominantly Muslim, has said, nah, death to the French, yo. And some other people killed a bunch of Catholics while shouting Allahu Akbar, getting shot 14 times by a copper.
The irony is when the Moors took over the Europe, they were actually pretty good with the French.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not. As far as that subject goes, the terror stuff, I don't want to go near it because fucking hell, that is.
See, I thought we were talking about cough cough France because of additional COVID lockdowns.
That is actually interesting.
That everyone ran away from Paris.
Yeah, well, I know about to be honest, I was torn whether it was the lockdowns that they left. Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was because of the terror attacks or because of the lockdown, which I wasn't sure. Yeah, okay, so they aren't terror attacks, they aren't beheadings, they're knife attacks. Very true, thank you for the correction. But the point is, obviously, the point is people are reporting on it as if there is a correlation. That was the point, not me saying it. I do apologise for being incorrect. Hopefully my correction is adequate, but I will not be. There will not be a video on that subject because fucking hell. I was going to do the anti-semitism thing as a video as well. That would have been, the whole thing as it felt. Then I realised, it's Friday, yo. Stream. Let's do that.
Let's do that instead.
honestly, it's just so funny. To me, it is because I mean, I like Corbyn to an extent because he comes across as someone who genuinely cares about people, but his policies are so fucking dumb. And he is genuinely a nice guy. You know he is. But he's so easy to push around, and that was proven. Vice did a thing with him, and it showed him getting pushed around by people all the time. People who used to work for the party said, yeah, he was just being pushed around by his, senior staff, No, we can't be doing this. You're just pushing an old man to what? To do a job he can't do? Even though he really wanted to, he just couldn't win an election.
True.
He was lucky to wait.
I mean, that's very very Joe Biden.
It is, but I don't know. It's all right. I just feel a little bit bad for him. I think he'll be all right. I know Ken Livingstone, the former mayor of London, and he was an ardent Labour guy for a long time. He was a friend of Corbyn's, I think. He got suspended from Labour or expelled. He was trending on Twitter as well because of the Jewish thing, because he said a few things about, wasn't it? He something about Zionism that was deemed anti-Semitic, and I can't remember what it was. Zionist? I don't know. It was something related.
Usually, if anybody is using the term Zionist as a pejorative, it's usually because of some either identification with the Palestinian people, which, I mean, let's be honest, it's kind of rooted in some questionable antics, and then you have what's it called? I can't think of the word. Oh, yeah. So the Zionist thing usually means that they're, a part of Israel sympathizers, or
right.
sorry, non. I know what I'm trying to say, but I keep failing it up. Palestinian sympathizers, or they don't like Jewish people.
Yeah, but Burnham, yes, Livingstone said Hitler supported Zionism. The funny thing is, that's quite a highly contested one, because there were some, there were debates and arguments about certain historical sources that indicated he would have been okay if Israel had its own space that wasn't any, or was it Israel? If the Jewish people lived somewhere else away from everyone else. But it's a contested argument, which is why, yeah, that's a mess.
That one sounds fun.
Yeah, I mean, no one was going to support that because history, we can't be talking about that around here.
True.
But yeah, also there was a thing about Vosh. I know vaguely who he is, but only because I've heard clips of him say that he would use he'd use like physical assault to get people to do what he wanted politically, in the sense of taking away all that you own and enforcing mandatory blah blah policies. And I'm just like, nah.
Yeah, something definition of terrorism.
I would never ever debate this guy because he's clearly an extremist, and you can't talk to someone who's trying to work you. And that's the thing, I watched the clips I've seen of him where he's working someone towards a point to either try and catch them out for a cheap point scoring win, or to try and bully them, because that's what he does, and that's what he is. He's a bully, and I have no respect for that. And using physical violence to get your point across, now fuck off and just yeet yourself.
I'm not a fan. I don't like a lot of left-wing political commentators. There are some that are good, but a lot of them have gained their notoriety, and obviously the reason why they're popular is usually because they do some pretty hot takes. Steve Shives comes to mind. Okay,
another thing, actually, I do know something else Vosh did. When Sydney Watson talked about her sexual assault, he mocked it.
What a classy fuck.
And I know about Isaac Butterfield stuff because I like Butterfield's fun content. It's obviously not meant to be super serial. It's to me, I find it funny because He's got a sense. He's a comedian. Obviously, he's funny. And obviously, what he said to Isaac was fucking dumb as well. But yeah. We have reached the end of our time.
Oh, have we?
Yeah. That's good fun.
Yes. Very, very, very educational. Very unlike the last one.
You know, it's probably because neither of us have a drink in our hands. It helps.
Yeah,
I've got water.
True.
Stop drinking fluids after 10 p.m. and all that. Although I'll drink a little tomorrow. Go for a bike ride.
So, do you have anything you're working on this weekend?
I'll be working on Content Constable and a video on Tati Westbrook.
That's going to be an interesting
one.
one.
She broke the law. She's getting sued for millions.
Scandal.
No, something like that, yeah. No, actual legal thing. I actually get to talk about that and not the drama aspect, which is the best thing for me.
Oh, the drama aspect is so much more fun.
It is, but it feels like cheap views, and I don't want that. I'm lying. Of course I want the views. Fuck that. It's this time of year. Get wrecked. Nah, what about yourself?
I'm going to try and make a video tomorrow basically detailing why I'm going to be voting for Trump on Tuesday.
I meant to buy a MAGA hat before it's too late, just so I can have it on a shelf.
But I want to basically do that so that people can really understand why I'm doing this, because a lot of people have basically tried to straw man why I'm doing things. And I'm getting kind of tired of it. So
in a video would be better. Then you can just here, watch this, bitch.
Yeah. This is all my thoughts. Here's why. Here are the numbers. Here we go.
Oh, and if you're not already, in the description down below is the link to Trups LP's channel. Consider subscribing and then decide yes.
I would appreciate that. But if there is nothing else to shill, then I'm going to bid you all adieu. Thank you all for coming out. Say good night. Meg.
Night.
Hello.
We're out.